Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Collecting Comics, the show where we talk about comics and how to collect them. My name's Sean, and today we're going to go over your comic book news for the month of December. But first, we want to thank our friends over at Watto's Scrapyard for sponsoring this episode of Collecting Comics. So, to start off this episode today, we're going to talk about DC Future State. And basically, what it is DC's calling it a 2-month extravaganza that's actually going to postpone all of their major titles for 2 full months. You're going to be exposed to some brand new characters, and these characters are actually going to take up the mantles of their counterparts. But it's not going to leave out the big three of DC entirely. What you'll find is that our heroes are actually going to take on new challenges, new suits, and a lot of situations that they've really not encountered before. So the first one we're going to talk about is Superman. So Kal-El is going to be a shackled up gladiator that's been stripped down to his bare bones of what he can do. DC's been very secretive about what's really going to happen to our big three of DC, and they're not really giving too many clues. There are some big reveals that we'll talk about here in a second, but Kal-El is going to be donning his black and gray or black and white suit again with the black S, and he's really going to have a hard time dealing with some of the issues that we're going to run into in his storyline. His new story is called Superman Worlds of War. So we could only imagine to see what he's going to go through. Our next one, and it's actually pretty interesting, is going to be Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman is going to take on some of the different equipment from other superheroes that we've seen throughout DC. You can kind of tell here that she looks kind of older and beaten, but if you notice around her waist, she's actually wearing Batman's old utility belt. So I hope that we end up finding out how she acquires that. And then also, if you look around her neck, she's actually wearing the Green Lantern ring as a necklace. And her new book is going to be called Immortal Wonder Woman, and it's going to take place in the distant future, where she is struggling to just kind of keep up with everything that's going on. It suggests that there's a few dozen millennia worth of mysteries that that Diana is going to have to overcome. If I were to take a guess, it seems like either Batman and Green Lantern have died, or they've kind of just given up, and she's gonna need more than just her lasso to help her through the struggles that she's about to have. And then we go into Bruce Wayne, and Bruce's new story is going to be called Dark Detective. And basically what's going to happen is that he was taken for dead, or he's presumed dead, and he's had to change up his suit a little bit because he's on the run. and so he needs bare minimum for his suit, and he needs to be able to move fast. Really, that's all we're really given. I really like his suit though. I feel like it's a different look for Batman than having the iconic cape and some of like the darker armor. I really like how it's kind of more of a vest and almost like a Nightwing look to me. His new bat on his chest looks really good, but he does have a decked out um, utility belt. We'll have to wait and see what kind of tools that he's going to use in this new run of his books. Now, although these characters are taking a hiatus and taking in their part in their respective books and new challenges, we are going to see a number of new characters taking up their mantles. For example, our new Batman is going to be Luke Fox. Luke Fox is the son, or Luke Fox's father is the man who created the Batman equipment and suits and gear that we've seen over the years. I really like how he's kind of donning this mysterious bat look with the classic cape, but I really like how his face is completely covered. And what I think is going to happen is he is going to try to protect Bruce in some fashion and kind of keep up his legacy so that people still think the Batman that was is the Batman that's still there. But again, DC hasn't really given very much clues to what's going to happen. And for Superman, we got Jonathan Kent. Oh, I didn't mention the new Batman's story is going to be called Future State, the Next Batman. And for Superman, we're actually going to get Kal-El's son, Jonathan Kent, to take up his mantle. And his Superman costume is kind of interesting. I kind of like how the cape drapes over his shoulders, and the S is a little bit higher up. But he's going to bring a lot of confidence into his dad's old persona, and is going to give Superman a brand new confidence in how he does things. This new Superman book is going to be called Superman of Metropolis. And for Wonder Woman, we got a couple of interesting characters here. The first one is Nubila. She is her book is going to be a one shot. They really haven't given much information as to how she's going to do things or how she's going to cross over into the other two Wonder Woman books, if at all. It might just be two different characters who are going to pick up the mantle because the current Wonder Woman is lost or missing or something like that. Our next Wonder Woman is a woman named Yara, and she is visibly similar to our classic Wonder Woman, but she dons her own look as well. I really like her suit and the gold Wonder Woman symbol, and she has the bands, and she even has her own lasso of truth, and it's visibly different. I mean, she's got these little, I guess like trinkets or balls on the end of her lasso, and other than that, I don't know what other powers she's going to give us. And her book is going to be called it's called Future State Wonder Woman. So Future State is going to also bring us a number of new characters, and again, other personas are going to take up the mantles of other characters, or they're just costume redesign. So here we got Orphan and Spoiler. Their costumes look very mysterious. They're both hooded. Honestly, I don't know too much about these characters. Not a huge DC reader, but we have what they're calling the Batgirls. Maybe they're doing like a team up. We got the Guardian. I really like how he has more of a street level look to him for his costume. I like the helmet. I like his shield. We have Superwoman and Catwoman. Catwoman's suit looks really sleek. I wouldn't say a lot like her previous costumes, but definitely a good look for Selena. This is one of my favorites. Is Red Hood. I've always liked the way Red Hood's mask looked. How he had the hooded mysterious vibe to him. I really like the way that his mask is looking and his costume. I think this is going to be one of the better books in DC Future State. Here's a look at Nightwing, Harley Quinn, Jackson Hyde, and Zatanna. It's been a long time since we have got a Zatanna book, so that'll be an interesting one to read. And also, this is going to be a 2-month hiatus of all of the main books that DC is used to having. It's going to span from January to February, and it's going to cross 25 different storylines and miniseries. The cool thing is for retailers, if they're not completely sure how these books are going to go, DC has said something of the way of you can return it 100%. Now that doesn't go for us; that goes for the retailers. So your comic book shops who purchase these books, if sales aren't going that good, DC has alluded to telling them that they could return it for a full refund of the number of books. Now, if this is going to follow through with DC or if it's just going to last a week or two for during this time, I don't know. But I think that's kind of a fair thing for them to do for these comic book stores who rely on these big books like Batman, like Superman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League. Since DC has changed their distributor, a lot of comic book stores, at least here locally in San Antonio and Texas, South Texas, have had trouble getting their shipment due to delays because of COVID, because of other reasons, because FedEx has been backed up because of the holidays and things like that. DC has been one of the few groups who have gotten their books into the comic book stores. So if these delays continue to happen with these distributors, these mailing services, there could be a number of comics that aren't going to hit shelves on time. Where at least in our area, DC's done a really good job at making sure that at least they have their books on the shelf, and that has a lot to do with the distributor that they have switched to. I think it was Midtown. I think they switched to Midtown, and every Wednesday they've been mostly on time for New Comic Book Day. And of course, we want to thank our friends over at Watto's Scrapyard for sponsoring this episode of Collecting Comics. You can find them on Instagram at Watto's Scrapyard and on Facebook and eBay as well. They make 3D printed parts for hard to come by Kenner and Hasbro vehicles, as well as resin printed head sculpts of dozens of different characters in the Star Wars universe. Don't see a character you like on their Instagram, send them a message and they can get it designed and printed for a reasonable fee. And now we're going to move on to Marvel. So when Disney acquired Fox, also acquired the Alien franchise. I've never been a huge Alien fan. I've watched the movies. They're enjoyable. They're always fun to watch. But I'm really interested in seeing what Marvel is going to do with this Alien franchise. The writers Philip Kennedy Johnson and artist Salvador LaRosa, and they're going to be working together to launch this series in March. Now, in classic Marvel fashion, they're going to start leading up to this event, I guess, or this new series with a bunch of different variants that are crossing their bigger titles. So what we're going to do is we're going to look through some of these variants, and we're going to kind of also play a little game, and I want to know what you guys think in the comments. But we're going to go through some of the variants that are going to be available through some of the main titles that Marvel's releasing. These variants are going to start coming out in January, and the aliens aren't gonna be a part of the storylines. These are just variants that are gonna hit the shelf. And from what I've been told, there's no exclusive variants as of yet, or like retailer incentive variants. These should all be cover price variants that you should be able to pull off right off the shelf. So I really like the Avengers one. I'm actually going to pick up this Avengers one. I like how Black Panther is fighting the aliens, one of the aliens, and I really feel like that Black Panther is going to hold his own in this fight. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, I think even if there was a swarm of aliens attacking him, I feel like Black Panther would figure out a way to win. Also, with Spider-Man fighting the aliens, this one I'm not so sure about. I think if it's one alien, I think Spider-Man would hold his own. If it was like a swarm of aliens, I feel like he would really get beat up pretty bad and figure out a way to evade these aliens. But I think it's a real interesting cover, though, how they're fighting at the top of what looks like a church. This one I'm going to pass on. I'm not a huge reader of of Spider-Man, so I'm actually going to pass on this one. I am actually interested, though, in one of the more recent storylines, and we're going to kind of touch on it a little bit later. And the next one is Black Widow. So we have Black Widow jumping over one of the aliens and using her wrist guns to kind of take on the alien. And in a fight, if it's maybe one or two aliens, I think Black Widow would find a creative way to take care of them. But I think if she was fighting a whole swarm of them, I don't think she would last very long. I think she would have to figure out some kind of creative way to evade the aliens if she got ambushed. But I think if it was like one or two aliens, I think she would be able to hold her own. This one's kind of funny. It's Black Cat, and she is sitting with some alien eggs, and you have the queen. I feel like there's no chance of survival for Black Cat in this particular situation. And then you have the Captain America variant. I really like how the alien is attacking the shield and Cap doing one of his classic defense poses. You do see that tail from behind, so I don't know if the alien's going to try to get creative to try to get Cap from behind, but I think Captain America would be able to take on a few aliens at a time. I pretty bad, but I think he might be okay in this situation. And then we have the Captain Marvel variant of aliens. I think Captain Marvel will hold her own versus multiple aliens, no problem. Then you have the Daredevil variant. I really like how they're kind of using his sixth sense, if you will, so that he can detect these aliens. I feel like what the aliens do really well is sneaking and lurking behind different areas, and I think that's going to play to Daredevil's advantage. Um, I think Daredevil would get beat up pretty bad if he was caught off guard. I don't think he'd really be able to beat too many of them. I think he'd have to figure out a way to evade. And then you have the Fantastic Four taking on Queen Alien. As a team, I think they could find a creative way of beating the Queen Alien. But individually, I don't think they really have too much of a chance. Maybe Johnny would with flying away and stuff. And this, I think, now that I look at it, I think it's an homage to one of their earlier earlier comic books back in the day. If you think you know what comic book that is, leave a message in the comments of what book you think that is. But I vaguely remember this as something else. And then you have the Guardians of the Galaxy. I am picking this one up because I'm a big Guardians fan, but Groot and Rocket versus Queen Alien, I don't think they have a chance at all. But I think it's a really cool variant, them being surrounded like that and the dark colors in it. And then you have the Immortal Hulk, and I think Hulk could take on a whole army of this. I think he'd get beat up pretty bad, and you would see a bunch of gamma blood everywhere, and also like him kind of singed because of the aliens acid in their body and stuff like that. But I think Hulk would do pretty well against these aliens. And again, these are all variants that are leading up to number one issue release of the aliens by Marvel Comics. Iron Fist, I think he'd do really well. I was talking to someone else about Iron Fist and if he'd be able to take on some aliens or like a swarm of aliens, and I feel like he would do a good job. But then they had mentioned, I think Iron Fist would punch through these aliens, but then his body would be burned and singed because of the acid that they release. And then you have Iron Man. I think if Iron Man can stay to the sky, I think he would stand a chance. I think if he was ambushed, he might get beat up pretty bad. I don't know if the aliens would be able to break through his armor or not, but This just kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Outriders almost, and when he fights the Outriders in Endgame, I think that I still think Iron Man would hold his own, especially being able to evade. If he had to, he'd be able to fly away. But I feel like he'd make a hard decision, and if he had to evade, he might be leaving somebody behind. And then you have the King in Black variant for aliens. Um, I feel like Noel would be a little bit more creative and not necessarily fight them. I feel like he'd figure out a way to kind of control the aliens if he could, and make him part of like his symbiote army. But I can see Null holding his own against a number of aliens at one time. With Miles, I feel like he doesn't really stand a chance. Let me know what you guys think, though. I want to know what you guys think about some of these characters and if they would hold their own versus a swarm of aliens or one or two aliens at a time. Shang-Chi, I feel like it's the same thing. I feel like as Iron Fist, I think he'd be able to fight off a few of them, but if it's like a big swarm, I don't think he'd stand much of a chance. And if he was able to beat them up pretty bad, that his body would be severely burned and disintegrated if he got some of the acid on him. Thor, I think he would have no problem. I really don't like the way this variant looks. I think it's not a good look for Thor, but the art is interesting. I can kind of see what they're going for, like a rugged Viking maybe look, but I just don't quite like the way he looks in the face and how tattered he looks. Looks very like Ren and Stimpy like, or Courage the Cowardly Dog like. And then you have the aliens variant of Venom. And I think Venom would have a good time fighting some of these guys, maybe more so challenging the naming contest or something like that. But I don't think Venom would have a problem taking on a number of these aliens if he had to. And then, of course, you got Wolverine, who really just doesn't care if he gets hurt at all. He can heal back over time and stuff like that. So I can see Wolverine having a really good time taking on some of these aliens at a time. And now we're going to talk about Spider-Man. So after the events of Sin's Rising, Peter is severely beaten, and even in Last Remains storyline, he's not doing so well right now. He's having to make some really hard decisions, but in classic Spidey fashion, he's going to change his suit again. It's something that is not it's well known. He, from his Iron Spider suit to his armored suit to even getting the symbiote and the black suit Spider-Man and things like that. I am interested though in seeing what this suit is going to look like. Are we going to get more of a sleek suit, like maybe something like 2099, or are we going? Is he going to just do a variant of his classic red and blue, or are we just going to see something that we've never seen before? This book is supposed to reveal the suit in issue 61 of Spider-Man, which I believe comes out in March. And he's going to need to use this new suit to face off against Kingpin, where right now Kingpin and Norman Osborn are working together. but he's going to have to get a new suit to help defeat Kingpin yet again and protect his family, his friends, and the city. The next thing we're going to talk about is Last Ronin. This has probably been the biggest book, not only in size, but in the hype of comic books right now. Last Ronin, the first issue, TMNT Last Ronin, has sold over 180,000 copies of various printings. There's been some comic book retailers who have been lucky enough to do their own variants of this book, and a lot of them look really, really good. If you have a chance to get a hold of this book, you really need to. IDW has announced that they are going to release a director's cut that is 64 pages. And this is also going to release in March. This director's cut is going to include never before seen layouts from Kevin Eastman's notes and storyboards that date back decades. And it's going to also reveal other character designs that he has had over time for this particular storyline, which this story was actually supposed to release, I believe it was in the 80s. It just never got up off the ground, and we finally get it now. But it's not without its controversy. This book has been delayed multiple times. This book, we were issue 1, we were supposed to get, I think, in October. It got pushed back to November, and when it did, it's immediately sold out. This book is now going for, I've seen as high as $80 to $100. I definitely wouldn't pay that if you can wait for it. Mainly because there's a bunch of second printings that have been released within the last week or two, on top of this director's cut that's coming, which sounds like it's going to have a whole bunch of extra stuff. And this would be a great chance for you to get it at cover price as opposed to scalped prices on the internet. If you really, really want the #1 first printing issue, I would look to buy this no more than $50. I think over some time, because of how much it's delayed, you'll find the right price for this book. It's not going to be easy. You're going to see a lot of people asking some pretty high prices. The story is amazing. It's really good. As someone who really doesn't read TMNT, but grew up with the Turtles in the 90s, I thought the story was really good. I needed just a little bit more. And I think that's just because I was a little bit out of context as to what was really going on, who some of these characters are. A friend of mine who's a big fan of TMNT absolutely loved it, and I did too. I just think in the next issue, we're going to need just a little bit more of the Turtles and the situation of what's going on and things like that. So this is a 5-issue miniseries. The issue #2 has been delayed once again. It was supposed to be December. It got a new release date for January, and I think just within the last week or so, they've pushed back issue #2 into February. And I hope it doesn't get pushed back any further. I don't want to see this book lasting most of 2021. I'm afraid that it might have the same effects as like Doomsday Clock did when at first it was a bi-weekly book, and then it was every 2 months, and then it was every 2 months plus another few weeks or and so on. And that series almost took a year and a half, and by that time, not very many people were interested. They lost interest. I think because of the popularity of this particular book, the interest won't go away, but I think people will kind of get over the hype if these books don't start coming out more consistently over time. If you're even remotely interested in this book, I would say pick it up. Um, Again, I'm not a huge TMNT fan, but I was convinced by my buddy to go ahead and read this, and I really enjoyed it. Again, if you can find a first printing, I wouldn't pay more than $50 for it. If you can find a second printing, pick it up while you can. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. I know at my shop they have plenty of second printings. But as we get closer to issue number 2, those second printings might be hard to come by, and then you might see those raise up in price from, I think it was like $8.99 to maybe even $20. People who are selling it secondhand. And if you can get your hands on the director's cut in March, I would definitely pick that up to see if you can get some behind the scenes information from the Last Ronin and get some different concept art. Something that we're going to continue doing here on Collecting Comics is talking about books that you should pick up for the month. So we'll talk about some of the bigger books that hit December or late November, early December that you should really consider reading. TMNT Last Ronin definitely being one of those. I wouldn't wait for a trade paperback or even a hardcover, a compilation, a omnibus of that to come out. I would pick it up as soon as you can. Another book or 2 books that I would suggest picking up is Mighty Morphin. So after the events of Lord Drakon and all the damage he did to the Morphin grid and how everybody had to resolve the fight and the sacrifices that were made, they've started a new series called Mighty Morphin. And here in a second, I'll show you the next one called Power Rangers. These are 2 separate books. Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers pick up directly after the fight of Lord Drakon. You're going to see him imprisoned. You're going to see Zordon trying to figure out different stuff. And we're actually also going to be introduced to a new Ranger. And you even will see Trini and Jason and Zach come back to talk to Zordon and warn them about a new threat that is coming towards Earth that apparently Drakon has some insight to. And in Mighty Morphin's case, this new Green Ranger that has appeared, and he's very mysterious. He comes around and bails the Power Rangers out a couple of times and then disappears. So who this is, we're not 100% sure. Issues 2 for each of these books are out now. If you're a Power Rangers fan, if you're a Lord Drakon fan, I would pick these up. The Legacy figures really got me, or the Lightning collection figures have really got me into the Power Rangers stuff again. And it's a really enjoyable series. Unfortunately, I had to stop reading Mighty Morphin and Go-Go just because I didn't have room for it. But now I kind of regret it because I'm behind on that story. But these first 2 issues for both of these books are really, really good. So if you have a chance to pick these up, I definitely will. On the Marvel side of books, I would definitely pick up King in Black. I don't have it on here. I'd also pick up Venom if you can. A lot of crazy stuff is happening. You have Noel, who is just made a mess of the Marvel heroes and universe in many aspects. Ever since his first appearance in Venom #3, he's really just kind of taken the place by storm. And in this big event book, it all comes up to a head where he's still taking over heroes, and there's big sacrifices that are needing to be made, and they're starting to learn who they think the key is to taking on Noel and hopefully beating him for good. This book is already on issue #2, and this is another series that's going to cross many months. But in doing so, they are also crossing multiple different series. My advice would be, if you are currently picking up a series where King in Black ties into, continue reading it. I don't think it's necessary to pick up every single issue of King in Black tie-ins. For one, I think there's some odd 30-ish issues. I think it's 20 to 30 issues where this is going to cross into over multiple months. Last thing I'd want you to do is get a whole bunch of books that really might have like a small nod to the main storyline. I would definitely pick up King in Black, continue picking up any of the other series that it crosses into that you're already getting. For one, you don't want to miss out on the continuity of those stories that you are currently subscribed to, but it may not be necessary to pick up every single tie-in to King in Black. And for the independent titles, I'm really interested in the Department of Truth. This book has been out for a while now, I think since early November. It's on issue #3, and it's a really interesting book. It talks about conspiracy theories and this basically Department of Truth at a national level, where they try and make sure information stays straight, and that there's this entity, if you will, that believes in flat worlds and all these American conspiracy theories that have gone around even in the real world, and kind of turn them on their head. And I've only read issue #1. I'm a little bit behind, again, because there's issue 3 is already out. But it was a very interesting book. The art is very different. The art reminded me a little bit of Cold Spot when we did the episode on Cold Spot and the horror books. And then we have from Scout Comics Recount. The reason why I was interested in this book is because we came off fresh from the election, and this book is about this organization that is going out and doing some pretty bad things to people who supported the government that was not doing so well. And I felt like it really just hit close to home because of all of the news and things that were going on during the election, and the conspiracy theories and things that were being said. a lot of it really connects in this book. Recount number 2, issue 2 is not going to be out for a while. I don't think it's out till end of January ish. I would definitely check with your local comic book store if they have any back issues. And also same with Department of Truth. If you can find issue number 1, pick it up. I had to pick mine up for about $10 after back issue price, which is a little bit more than I wanted to spend, but it's a really great series. I think it can win a couple of awards for its writing and for its art. I've not enjoyed a independent book like these 2 books since the book Grass Kings. And as always, we want to thank our Patreons for supporting us and all of our shows on the Collecting Weekly channel. We'd like to personally thank Ben Porter, Griffin Campbell, Sean Fear, Ian Seaby, Renee Mendez, Eric Marcel, Quinn Aguirre, Leo Hernandez, King Louie, Mark Pearson, Dan Lee, Deanie Martin, Stephen Krent, Jason Nelson, Big Fern, King Zachary, Caesar Marquin, Eddie Mendez, Eric Ruiz, Mario Cortez, Stephen Percha, Sean Yahtzee, Scott Bradley, Jesse Contreras, Steve and Maria Stanley, Lord Voldemort, Eddie Man. I'm sorry, Eddie. I can't say your last name, but we want to thank you all for supporting our channel and watching all of our shows. We really appreciate it. And if you want to become a Patreon, you do have some incentives. Here are your January Patreon benefits. You're going to get a magnet and a window cling. I really like the Figure Police one, the third party police window cling. I think that one's pretty funny. And if you want to become one of our Patreons, there are 3 tiers: the Sweet Angel, the Certified Crispy, and the CW What a Guy tiers. What a Guy is our newest tier. It's for folks in this tier get a signed Collecting Weekly Live 18 by 24 silhouette poster on your first pledge, and then doubles of all the stickers we send, a sculpt a year painted by Dark Side Customs after 3 months, and all the benefits of our previous tiers. And we want to give a shout out to all of our other shows in the Collecting Weekly network. We have Auction, Small Talk, Collecting Weekly, The Joy of Hobbying, After Dark, Collecting Rarities, Only Fools in Collecting, and Creeps Are Us. And everybody, I'd like to thank you for watching this episode of Collecting Comics. If you agreed or disagreed with any of the comments that I had to say today, please let us know in the comments. I would really like to know what you think about those alien variants. I'm actually kind of excited for those, and who you think would win the battle between Marvel versus the aliens. And until next time, my name is Sean, and this has been Collecting Comics.